Hey guys, it's Tony. So I'm going to do my best to, I don't want to use a mic. Didn't want to do that. But as many of you know, I don't like talking about this, but I decided that today, just a couple talks with the Lord about it over time. And I decided to do this as briefly as I can. You guys know that I have been diagnosed with lupus. It's been 10 years now. Lupus and mixed connective tissue disease, which usually, lupus is an overarching autoimmune disease. It's systemic, so it can affect any organ at a time and system. So that's why it's systemic. So it can attack your renal system, your cardiovascular system, your skin is an organ, and it can attack your neurological system, your spinal cord, making it even worse. And so many people that are diagnosed with lupus can and will be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, mixed connective tissue disease or disorder, which lupus and MCTD they're used interchangeably a lot, and that's one of the things that happened to me at first when I was first diagnosed. And although I was diagnosed about 10 years ago, we believe I had it even in high school. And if you have lupus, I'm here for you. If you have any of these autoimmune diseases, all of this you will understand. And I just wanted to come on and give you guys an update, but also I know this is a bit of a departure from my usual content, but ministry is ministry. And one of the things that I have struggled with over the course of the few years that I have been ministering on YouTube, because you guys know I'm an ordained minister, is sharing my diagnosis process, my story. I don't like to give a lot of merit to it, but it is a part of my story. It is something that I'm currently dealing with intensely, and I have gone through every treatment you can think of, including natural, supplemental, and I've done a lot of research. And the point of this video is to be here as a sister to those of you who are suffering, men and women who are suffering from any one of these diseases or any ailment, but also to inform you of the things that I have learned that have helped me stay in remission for as long as I have, because it's been years, and the things that I'm sure are helping me, even though this is one of the hardest relapses or flares, they like to call it, that I've ever had. Likely the reason I am not as affected as I could be, because it is quite debilitating. It's because of the natural pain management and supplemental management that I do on my own. You guys, many of you know that although lupus is not necessarily hereditary, one of the first things, I think it was the first thing they asked me after I had undergone my first round of testing in like 2014, and results were coming in. The diagnosis process is a very long process. Well, it can be. Lupus is very, very difficult to diagnose many times because it masquerades as other things, because it is systemic. And also, if you are not positive for antibodies, certain antibodies, it can make it harder to diagnose lupus. But one of the things they asked me was, does lupus, run in your family? Do you have a history of it? Rheumatoid arthritis. And I don't know why I didn't mention rheumatoid arthritis. It goes hand in hand with lupus. Like, that's the first, like, literally, I don't know a person with lupus that is not affected with rheumatoid arthritis. So it just goes without saying. But if you're not aware, then I'm here to make you more aware. Rheumatoid arthritis is a little different than just arthritis. And of course, many of you know that my first cousin passed. We were really young, about like a couple of years before I was diagnosed. My first cousin passed of lupus. Her little sister also has mixed connective tissue disease, and while they don't just say straight away that lupus is hereditary, there are certain genetic factors that lean toward developing lupus. And another thing that research is finding is that environmental factors can cause an onset of lupus. So that with these genetic factors being present in a person's DNA, that certain environmental factors can actually cause an onset of lupus. And so there are many people that will be diagnosed later on in life, unfortunately, because environmental factors making impressions on what is already there genetically. So I just want to share some of the things that have helped me, but also share some things as well for those of you who have a loved one or friend with lupus or MS or MCTD, rheumatoid arthritis. These are autoimmune diseases, meaning your immune system automatically begins attempting to protect you when in fact it is attacking you. So your body is essentially attacking itself. I can tell you what happened to me recently. I caught a cold. I was already, with lupus, here's the thing, you never know. There is no cure for lupus or autoimmune disease. That is one. So I need to say that. It is absolutely a disease that is managed by pain management. And that doesn't entail a whole lot. When it gets completely out of hand, then and it affects certain organs and systems, then chemotherapy is often a route. Infusions, I've been there, done that. It was in 2016 to 2017. The thing is, with lupus, you never know. It's a waiting game. You may have one set of symptoms, your first flare, and then even years later have another flare and never have one of those symptoms again, but have completely different ones. So many times you're having a flare and you don't know exactly what it is. They can start off very mild and then progressively get worse down to outright being debilitating, which is where I am. And I'll share a little bit of what that entails for me right now. You are managing the symptoms, which is all that you can do, as long as you can, until you can't take the pain anymore. Really is what it boils down to. And if you have any one of these things, then you understand what I mean. It can be very frustrating. You don't sleep. Ladies, hormones, estrogen affects it. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about, estrogen affects lupus. They are not sure exactly how, but we also understand that there is their estrogen is the culprit for uterine fibroids. If you have fibroids and lupus, look into managing the fibroids, not removing them. I really pray that you do your research, because I've done an extensive amount on this as I was diagnosed with fibroids years ago. They You can still have children, like all of the things. But your blood supply feeds fibroids. And so if you're dealing with anemia, and you have fibroids, look into managing the fibroids, shrinking the fibroids naturally, and you will see an improvement in everything else. But with that being said, there's so many hormones, and especially estrogen, genetically engineered, substances in our foods, that our levels of estrogen are through the roof, men and women alike. And that shows up. It shows up in how your body functions. And so, I have found the link between fibroids causing, obviously, more anemia, because your blood supply feeds the fibroids. So if you have to actively work on cutting off the supply to the fibroids, to shrink the fibroids and cause them to degenerate, so that you can have more energy and you can hemorrhage less monthly, and all of the things. Or lose less blood during the month, I should say, not hemorrhage, but fibroids can cause hemorrhaging, so that's another thing. But when you are dealing with that, and you have when you have high levels of estrogen, it can definitely cause more frequent and harsher flares when it comes to lupus and MS, but specifically lupus, which again can control MS and other autoimmune diseases. If lupus, put it to you like this: if lupus attacks your neurological system, you are usually diagnosed with MS. I don't know the percentage, but many people with lupus are also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So unfortunately, they go hand in hand. And this is something that happened to me. You basically have to go through a whole nother diagnosis process when it starts attacking another system. And it's not that you don't have the lupus anymore, or that there's a whole nother disease, like, you know what I mean? It's how doctors treat it. So if lupus begins to affect your spinal cord or your neurological system, they don't treat it any different than MS. They have to treat it that way because it's affecting your neurological system. So there's no special treatment for it. You get what I'm saying? So unfortunately, they go hand in hand. Estrogen is a culprit. So even women during that time of the month, you may have many flares. And by the way, I'm not a doctor, but I am a patient and a survivor, and I know what it feels like. And I want to say this: doctors are not paid. And I hate to say it, especially in where we are now, in these recent couple of decades, where we are understanding lupus now more. Because back in the day, when my godmother, when I was 7, passed away. My mom was pregnant, actually. I'll never forget, my godmother passed of lupus suddenly. My mom's very best friend, and I was just a little kid. It's crazy how surrounded I've been by this disease. And my mom actually went into labor. It was the one of the only times I've heard my mom and seen her physically, upset. And then, dealing with it with my first cousins. And it's such a sad thing. But doctors now, many of them are bought by pharmaceutical companies, and they are not paid to get you well. Also, doctors are not versed in natural, there are doctors turn naturopaths in the holistic medicine. But if you go to the hospital, you go to a doctor, they are not paid to say, hey. And they also aren't versed in, hey, because they don't have it, and they may not know someone that has it, and they don't get paid to tell you these things. Like, hey, perhaps you should look into hormone management and eating less of this. There are foods that I avoid: garlic. I love tomatoes, but tomatoes and potatoes are my favorite food. They can actually, in big amounts, exacerbate lupus and cause flare-ups. So you need to be there are things that you have to be careful of. A doctor is not going to tell you that. So I'm here as an advocate, as a friend, as a sister, to tell you, utilize doctors when absolutely necessary. But as going to the doctors, and I have learned this, going to the doctors and being on steroid after steroid after steroid and chemo and infusions is not a lifestyle. It's a fix. And I have learned to live a lifestyle that allows me to be free of flare-ups as frequently as I had before when I was first diagnosed. And even some of the daily symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, just the pain that you wake up with, or the neuritis and the neuropathy and the pain and the burning and the tingling, all of the things. If you have MS or neuropathy, you understand what I'm saying. No sleep. You can see it. No sleep. Waking up vomiting. That's, it's that's a gastrointestinal issues. For me, lupus has affected that. And when I tell you, the weight loss, your weight can be up and down, but I tell you, just not keeping anything down, in the middle of the night, waking up vomiting in my sleep. And no amount of Prevacid or, Nexium or anything they diagnosed, Tums and all the things. You try famotidine, you try them all, will help. And you just have to sit up to go to sleep. That's me. And this video may be a little all over the place, but I'm really here to talk to you guys who know someone with it, or you guys who are dealing with it and doing your very best to manage it, because you have it. Doctors are paid bought, many of them, and paid by pharmaceutical companies, and pharmaceuticals fix things temporarily. They treat a symptom, they don't treat a disease. And with a disease that has no cure, I'm sorry, my hand is shaking. One of the things that I have a lot of times is tremors. And so I can be unsteady. I almost broke my mug this morning because you just become almost more clumsy if you have MS or neuropathy. Then you understand what I mean. Keeping your balance, walking straight, having back support, things like that. Feeling like your foot is sinking into the ground, those things. It's a thing, and you can laugh and enjoy life with the pain. You're gritting your teeth, you're grinding your teeth, the headaches every day, lupus headaches. Oof. Wake up in them every day. They become a normal part of life, to where when you don't have one, you realize, wait, I don't have a headache. Wow. And then you can have times where you're so healthy and you feel so good that you can't believe. You want to go to the doctor and say, you said something's wrong. I don't have anything. And then, unfortunately, it happens again. And I know even the struggle of being a minister and being diagnosed with something like that. And there are people who have been diagnosed with many other things. And when you are a person of faith, the way I'm a person of faith, I'll pray for anybody for anything, because I believe it. I believe it. When you're in a place like Timothy, and Paul ministered to Timothy, I'm sure on many, many occasions, but we see it in scripture. Timothy had an ailment, stomach issues that we never see go away. But Paul teaches him how, the best he can, to manage it and live with it. And unfortunately, with something like an autoimmune disease, that's what you're forced to do. But one of the worst things about it is, I'll never forget my worst flare-up was in 2016, and I was leading worship and ministry and going through ordination at the time, and I'd never gone through anything like this. It actually caused me to take a leave of absence from work, and then I went into early retirement. I was a teacher, and because I was unable to walk many days and do my job. So, and I was also going through diagnosis process again because I had begun having neurological symptoms. And so that is a drawn out process. They start with the worst thing, ALS, and then they go through atrophies, dystrophies, MS, all of the things to figure out how to treat the symptoms that you're having, right? Losing my voice in and out. Many of you guys know I'm a worship leader. I was on vocal rest for over a year one time because before I got diagnosed, we didn't know why I couldn't talk. My voice would break from one octave all the way to the fifth in the middle of singing. And I went into a depression. And here's the thing, another thing, if you know someone or you're living with lupus, the depression that is talked about, that doctors tell you about, is not because you're so sad. It is an actual clinical depression because it actually affects what's happening inside of you. So it's not like, oh, woe is me, I'm so sad. It's actually something that is happening chemically inside of you. And one of the hardest things was going through that in front of people, leading worship. I was also the kids ministry leader, and I was just losing weight. I couldn't keep anything down, and I was also stressed. Stress is another thing that's a culprit that you cannot avoid. You know, whether it's good stress or bad stress, it's a culprit for flare-ups and coming out of remission. And I lost so much weight. And one of the things that you hear all the time when you have lupus, especially in MS, you don't look sick. It's such a blow because you feel like your body is breaking. To this morning, sitting in the dark, I couldn't try to go back to sleep anymore. I had been up all night and felt like every bone in my body was not breaking at the joint, but crumbling. It feels like that. And this is happening inside of you, and you have no explanation for why, because you're taking all of the supplements. I mean, when I tell you the cost of supplements is crazy, but I take things that people have never heard of. And, you know, for the most part, they work. And then what ended up happening, well, let me finish the story, but I had lost so much weight that I had in church, and this is not to deter anyone from church because I was leaving church. I left church. I could live in church, you know. But when people don't understand what you're dealing with, they say stuff and they speculate. And I never forget the rumors that got back to me about me being like crazy or like on drugs and things like that. Like, because I was like, I looked different. I was different. And this disease felt like it was killing me. And not only I had just lost my best friend, my cousin, to the very same thing. I could have never imagined. I could have never imagined that I would be diagnosed with the same thing. So it was extremely triggering. It was extremely triggering. And I'm going through that, and I'm doing my best to show up for people. And they can only talk about you. And that people can be so cruel, especially when you have a disease like a quiet disease. I had lost so much weight. My eyes, like, they're bad now, but they were sunken in. I look at pictures and I'm unrecognizable almost, and couldn't keep anything down. And I was just in so much pain, and then it was affecting my vocal cords, and I couldn't. And that's, you know, if you know me, like, music and leading worship is like it's my everything. And so to not be able to do the little things, the normal things, and I know that if you have been affected by any one of these things, you understand, and I'm here with you, and I'm praying for you, and I love you. I know what you're dealing with, and to be dealing with it and have been faced with loss because of it, it's scary. It's scary. All the faith in God, all the love for God and his people, and you are dealing with something that you cannot fix. You watch God fix it for people sometimes, and he hasn't fixed it for you. It can be so hard on top of the physical pain. What it does to your psyche is also can be debilitating. And I pray that you don't lose faith, because God, he is a keeper. And I think a lot of people like to say that, but that doesn't mean God is showering you with blessings all the time. When he's a keeper, a lot of times he keeps you. He kept Timothy for his mission. Just like I feel like God is keeping me for my mission. And it is not always easy. I wanted to teach a class a couple of weeks ago, and like something had happened, and maybe one day I'll share it, and the Lord told me, don't teach. And I didn't. And the very next day, something else happened, and we ended up in emergency in the middle of the night. And you just have to listen. But you want to do all of the things. You want to do the little things. There's nothing worse than not being able to show up the way you're used to showing up and have people ridicule you and speculate, and because it's already hard enough, But again, when it comes to when I want to say this here, if you're dealing with these things, it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to not reply to people. It's okay to not have all the answers, because you don't have all the answers. It can even be frustrating when people are asking like questions that can seem silly, and you're like, they don't get the magnitude of how horrible and terrifying and evil this disease feels. It feels like a personal thing, especially when you can't show up, when you can't be there for your kids the way you were. I'll never forget years ago when I had to take leave of absence from school, and I'll never forget picking my daughter up from the same school that I taught at, after going through a round of infusions and things. Her turning to me, we're going over the Crescent City connection. If you're from New Orleans, then traffic is about as bad in New Orleans as it is in LA sometimes. We would be in traffic for an hour sometimes, and she, I didn't realize that she was processing this on her own. And she turns to me and she says, "Mom, are you gonna die?" And I didn't have the answer. I mean, I know that we all go. At the time, me now would be like, "No, girl, you ain't gonna die." Me then, 5 years ago, all I could do was say, "Not today." Not today. But she knew the pain of the loss that, losing my cousin had caused. She was there, she knew the things about this disease, and all she could think was, that's it. And I pray that you don't lose hope and that you don't lose faith, and I want to help you at least get you on the right path to finding some solutions for at least the pain management, because that's really what it's about, being able to live every day. I truly believe that whether you have an autoimmune disease, whether it's cancer, whether it's even dementia, and that's another thing with lupus, and I think I'll share a little bit. I'll say it now since I'm thinking about it. One of the reasons I'm unable to teach a long class is because it's hard to focus sometimes. It affects my vision, unfortunately. Sometimes it looks like looking through glass, like where your vision is broken, and I don't want to trigger anybody, But it's kind of creepy. It's very scary. It kind of looks like you're looking through a kaleidoscope, but one of the biggest things is forgetting things. Today's my sister's birthday. I told her happy birthday 2 days ago. I legitimately, I left groceries in the car for hours the other day. Keys in the doorknob, you name it, little things. I'm putting things in the refrigerator that it really does affect you. Again, it's a chemical thing. There's a thing called lupus fog where you're just unable to get it to kind of feel like you're aligning yourself, like where you're able to, like you want to focus and you want to, but you can't. You're like doing your very, very best to focus. It's like when you want to see something and you're trying to strain your eyes and you're determined, but you just can't. It's like that when you're trying to focus. And so that's why, because, and it's hard on my voice, it's hard on me. And physically, teaching it's a lot. It's very taxing. The spiritual attacks are taxing. And I'm just in a place where I really, really need to rest. And, yeah. So one of the hardest things is, even when you get up in the morning, the pain that you feel physically, getting to the point where you can work through that just to enjoy something about your day. It's really sometimes a mind over matter thing, but a lot of times it is just absolutely debilitating. One of the things that I have just since implemented, since in the last few months, is something. I had such a bad day one day. I guess it wasn't the last few months, the last couple months, that I decided to start my day over at 2:00 in the afternoon. I did. And that changed a lot for me. So from now on, when you don't have to give anything, I don't care if it's a sickness, somebody got an attitude with you, somebody cussed you out at work, somebody took your parking spot, start your day over. I have really, it is very much a mental thing where I do my very best to just control what I can control the controllables. And I decided, you don't get my lupus, you don't get my whole day. You got my morning. You got me. But today, I don't care, 2:00, I'm making me some decaf. I'm sitting by my little fake fireplace thing, and I'm going to start my day over at 2:00 in the afternoon. Yes, I did. And it actually was life-changing. This time, what ended up happening was I had a little cold. And I had something, I got a cold and I couldn't shake it. And it was weird symptoms, almost like pregnancy symptoms. And I knew I couldn't be pregnant, not because I one day don't hope to be or anything like that, but, couldn't have been pregnant. I'll just put it like that, but I was having, and again, I've had this for a very long time, even since before I was diagnosed. We're sure that I had it. It's the thing that brought me to my diagnosis, but for years, and weird symptoms. Still didn't think at all it was lupus because I'd never experienced these things before. And couldn't shake it, and then I started having a lot of congestion and things like that. And with lupus, you better be careful with that, because my godmother, she passed of a complication because of pneumonia. And come to find out, what ended up happening was I was literally sitting in the same spot one afternoon. I wasn't eating or anything, and this is a bit embarrassing, but I'm gonna share it because it's actually very serious. I didn't want to share it. It's gonna sound silly, but it's not silly. I had been sick for a month and not realizing the magnitude of what was happening inside of me, just taking cold medicine and stuff like that, which again, that's something that can also cause an onset of lupus. Not onset, I think. flare up, I would feel a little better and then I wouldn't, you know. Different symptoms I started, you know, I take my walks every day with my little Caesar, and I'll never forget one day, I couldn't feel my left foot. I couldn't feel my left foot. And for me, if you have any one of these things, then you understand it always affects my left side. Before I was even diagnosed with lupus, I was having the neurological symptoms, and I was diagnosed with left side paresthesis. And my dog Salvador at the time, it's funny, his name means savior. Salvador, he actually is the reason I even went to the doctor. Help dogs are great when you have a disease like this, or I don't like to say have, I don't like to be in possession. Don't be careful of saying my lupus or my this or my MS or my whatever it is, my depression, my anxiety, because it was hard to even talk about this for so long, because I detached myself from the idea of that belonging to me or be belonging to it. It's a thing they say, and all the diagnosis is, it tells the doctor what to treat. It doesn't mean you'll have it forever. It doesn't mean it takes over anything. You deal with it as it comes, the same way you deal with a headache, the same way you deal with a loss, the same way you deal with a job loss or getting a job or having a baby or any of the things. It's just a part of life. And I've learned that it's not the end of the world. And I'm in the middle of one of the greatest flare-ups, hardest, most debilitating, frustrating flare-ups I've ever had. My throat burns really bad. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. This is why I'm not teaching, because I'm like, there's so much that I want to say to you guys. Think, Tony, think. Yeah, it doesn't own you. You know, but anyway, what ended up happening was I was sitting here and my tooth fell out. I wasn't eating. I felt like there was a piece of glass in my mouth and a tooth had fallen out. And that is like super hard to talk about, because I mean, as a young person, it's like, wait, what? It was very confusing in the moment. I didn't know what was going on. I immediately reached out to a friend of mine. She's a dentist. She actually just finished school. She's actually one of the young adults. I say friend, but she is one of the young adults that I led as an assistant pastor here in California years ago, when I helped build a young adult ministry. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, you know, da-da-da. She's like, go here, do this. And I did that, and come to find out, I was fighting multiple infections that had affected my gums. If you have lupus specifically, 100% of people with lupus, this is a fact, will have gum issues. I had been so sick and not realized that it had caused gum issues, and my tooth just fell out. So they couldn't even help me with that because there was so much infection. I go to the doctor and I have walking pneumonia. Well, unfortunately, I have been on several treatments in my day for lupus and mixed connective tissue, you know. But I have not been a person that has had to take a lot of antibiotics. I haven't. I remember back in the day for a respiratory infection, I took a Z-Pack. I never had an issue that I can remember. The doctor gave me, now knowing my condition, the doctor gave me meds. It was amoxicillin. I'm saying this for a reason. And it started getting rid of the issue in my gums. But once I finished the amoxicillin, my other symptoms got worse, and I had an allergic reaction. I'm allergic to amoxicillin, rashes everywhere, throat swelling, and all of the things. And come to find out, amoxicillin is a culprit for lupus flares. So now that was in July. I've been sick ever since. And it's been up and down, and I really, really felt like a few weeks ago, I'm like, I'm going to teach this class. And you don't know, really, every person with lupus goes on treatment and pain management, steroids basically, corticosteroids, infusions, chemo, whatever. It's like a last resort, because the one thing I protect is my kidneys. My kidneys. Lupus affects kidneys, and so I've been very protective of not. Steroids have a massive effect on your kidneys. And having watched my cousin go through, and watching my little cousin that is still with us, her sister, one of the things I have learned, because I do feel like my lupus, I'm 40 now, my cousin died when she was 29. We were really young, but still being young, but much older now, I believe that one of the reasons I have been all right is because I have refused to live my life on steroids. But it depends on your tolerance for pain, and obviously, if you have a very physically demanding job, it may be more difficult for you to do such a thing, So that's actually what ended up happening. It caused, whereas I could have been getting better, it actually caused me to get worse. And so now I want to get into so the things that you should avoid and some of the things that have helped. And I am not a doctor. This should not replace if you are on any, it shouldn't replace it unless you are ready to go that route. There are a lot of videos that eventually maybe I'll try to link that have helped me. And some of them weren't even for lupus. A lot of them were for hormonal, for fibroids, because I can tell you there is a connection between having fibroids and every other disease. If you are a woman, if you have fibroids, tackle that first. I'm not saying you have to do plant-based, but red meat, terrible for lupus, terrible. But it's not something that I ever really eat. Never really did though. But terrible for fibroids. A lot of people who have successfully shrunken their fibroids have gone plant-based, but there are other things. So the first thing that happened was years ago, we had a conference at the church here that I was working at. And I met a doctor. He was our guest speaker. I met a doctor. His name is Dr. Chitty, and he's from the UK. He's amazing. He made the connection. He is one of the pioneers in making the connection between people of color, but the connection between not just people of color, but as we know, people of color, minorities are affected by a multiplicity of diseases at higher rates statistically more than Caucasians. So it doesn't matter if you guys know I'm like almost half black, North African, Moroccan, all of the things. I'm like mostly Mediterranean, Iberian. Regardless, there's some things that that are true for people in the region that I live. People, family members, like, a lot of us, we found that it's just genetically a thing with us. Low white blood cell counts, anemia. A lot of people that have the same background as I do, that are literally, mixed people of African descent, or Creoles and Cajuns or whatever. We actually have the same, some of the same ailments we're finding. that sub group of people. And even doing my ancestry, I didn't know that this was going to be a thing. I did my ancestry just to find out, because I didn't know who my dad was at the time. When I did my ancestry a few years ago, is when I found out all of these things I wasn't even looking for. And I'm kind of glad that I did. I'm not saying that you should. I know people are kind of like about those tests or whatever, and you have every right to be, for sure, because I believe some conspiracy theories, okay? But I learned a lot about people from Bosque, and people who have like a really rare blood type like me and things like that. So that's also good. But there are things to absolutely avoid. And Dr. Chitty is one of the doctors that made the connection between lack of vitamin D and autoimmune diseases in minorities. And a lot of people are supplementing vitamin D but not realizing that they're not supplementing near enough. He put me on 40,000 IUs of liquid vitamin D a day, and I have not had a flare-up since then until now. And I can tell you that it was at a time when I had been slacking on some of my supplements, but also had taken antibiotics. But I absolutely believe that taking liquid vitamin D3, 40,000 units a day has been life-changing. Another thing that has been life-changing for me, and this goes for alopecia as well. So getting in the sun, if you have lupus, you know that you're not supposed to be in the sun. So I actually don't go into direct sunlight. I always have on a cap. I wear long sleeves or a sweatshirt, even when it's hot outside, most of the time, because it actually can cause a flare-up. And if you're just being diagnosed with lupus, I'm with you. I'm praying for you. Hear me out. So the 40,000 plus IUs, you can't overdose on vitamin D, really. Your body just doesn't absorb it, but you can absorb that much, and it's absolutely necessary. Another thing I found out about, and I found out about it for hair and nails, which has been a reason that I did suffer a lot of hair loss my last really, really bad flare, because one of the things that usually happens that I get one rash. Some people get rashes on their face, and that's the one you hit, the mala rash or the butterfly rash. That is like what people think, but most people with lupus don't actually get that. It's a telltale. But my rash, or the rash that I usually get when I'm flaring, is right here on my left elbow. And sometimes you can't see it, and sometimes I can just feel it. And that happened, but it comes and goes. And sometimes it comes and I don't have a major flare. This time I did have it. That's one of the things. But also, I usually have discoid lupus, which gives you these, it almost looks like a ringworm or psoriasis. It can be all over, but especially in your hair, and it can cause a lot of hair loss, and that has happened to me. I didn't have this except for this one spot this time, but I've had it. So discoid lupus, remember, a lot of people don't think of it this way, but your skin is an organ. It's actually the biggest organ that you have, and so a lot of people will only be affected with it's hard to pronounce, but discoid lupus, where it's just in their skin, which is not a blessing by any means, but it's isolated to the skin. And I'm sure that since I've had it, it would be much better. That'd be better than having it everywhere, I can tell you that. But I started taking a supplement called MSM, and it's one of the building blocks of collagen. It's actually naturally occurring in your body, and any supplement that I mentioned today is actually naturally occurring. It's not like a drug, or anything like that. It won't upset your liver or overwhelm your liver or anything like that if you take it correctly. And of course, I want you to really do your own research, look at what is necessary for you. But MSM I took to help regrow my hair, and it gave me all these wonderful side effects. I realized that I was feeling better physically, like in my mobility. Um, the arthritis, had like subsided, and my hair was growing back, and it's, uh, just growing well, and my skin was super clear. And one of the things is, if you have taken heavy steroids, then one of the hardest things to go through is being on steroids and then getting off. Being on the steroids, it feels like a miracle. You feel like you don't feel anything. You feel wonderful, but it's when you get off of them. My skin, I had cystic acne. It was the picture. It was so bad. Big, dark under the skin, and they're painful. When I got off the steroids and stuff like that. So clear skin is not something that I had ever had. And MSM was why. So MSM, along with, it's a powder. And I always get, you don't look like you have whatchamacallit. Even doctors are stunned by my youthfulness when they look at some of my test results. It's baffling, but I know part of the reason is because I have taken charge of my health as much as I possibly can. I control the controllables. And I believe that a reason people don't think I could be 40 something years old is because of the supplements that I take, So even if you want it just for hair and nails and skin, it's great. But when I tell you, if you're dealing with arthritis, anything like hypermobility syndrome, there's so many different things I know about because of the diagnosis process, things that I had never heard of. And I'm like, so I'm aware of so many different things from doing my little studies and stuff. I mean, I'm like literally thinking about becoming a naturopath, because I know the benefits, how it can benefit so many people in general, but especially in communities that are overwhelmed by disease because of lack of knowledge and not being exposed to the things I really believe that God always meant for us to be exposed to. And now, because our food is so whack, we have to supplement things that we naturally got thousands of years ago. And so all of the processed things we eat, they may be good for certain things, but they have no nutritional value, And so MSM, you take it along with, I take a scoop of that. I get the Pure brand on Amazon. I used to get the crystals. They're extremely expensive, but the crystals are really great. But I don't see a difference in the coarse crystals or the fine crystals. I take a scoop of that and a scoop of absorbic vitamin C. You have to take it with the vitamin C. It's disgusting. I dilute a tiny scoop of the vitamin C because it's a carrier. It helps absorb a lot of vitamins, but especially MSM. And the recommended serving scoop of the MSM diluted in very hot water, about that thick, and a herb, and gulp it down. I take most of my vitamins at night. Another thing to help regulate. So aside from my liquid vitamin D drops, I also take a gel cap, 2 gel caps per day. That is liquid vitamin D and K2. Take the serving size because the K2 really, really helps, again, absorb the vitamin D into your body. I do take quercetin. Quercetin is a great anti-inflammatory, naturally occurring, great anti-inflammatory, but also helps regulate estrogen levels. Myo and D-Chiro, I take that as well to maintain healthy hormones, so that I take my regular multivitamin as well. That's great. If you're dealing with any hair issues, I encourage you to get a vitamin that does not have folic acid, but it has folate, because they're not the same. They are different. They're absorbed differently, and taking folate, a lot of prenatal vitamins have folate. But especially if you're having to take prenatals, look for something with folate. It's much better for you. The benefits are much more, so I do take my regular multivitamin. I also take EGCG, which is the building block of green tea. It's really great for shrinking fibroids. There's a couple of studies where for 2 months, vitamin D and EGCG considerably shrunk fibroids by 33%. With that, you may experience lighter cycles, more energy, less anemia, okay? Of course, you want to take something with iron, but again, that usually is best taken in your multivitamin because iron can be... I had to take iron alone when I was pregnant, and it hurts your stomach. Like, it can be really, really bad. EGCG, I take quercetin. DIM, D-I-M, is really, really great. If you are trying to regulate hormones and balance them out. You can even, if you don't want to go to a doctor for it, you can get an at-home hormone test that will show you if you're estrogen dominant. I can tell you in 2024, they're finding that most women are. And again, like I said, there is a connection between estrogen dominance and other diagnoses. So I would definitely look into it. But especially if you have fibroids, I have never been on birth control. I don't want those chemicals in my body or trying to regulate anything. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I can tell you that there are other ways because I know that a lot of, obviously I'm going to tell you to be abstinent, but I'm not talking about birth control for actual birth control. But I know a lot of people take birth control. They resorted to birth control to help them balance their hormones, but actually you're pumping metals, toxic metals in your body. And they may be keeping your skin clear and fighting heavy periods or keeping you from having a cycle altogether. However, it will not help you with fibroids. It will not help you with anemia. It won't help you become more healthy overall. And so those are just some of the things that I must do. Resveratrol, that's another one. Resveratrol is actually found in red wine. And while they say, now I'm not going to tell you to be drinking or anything like that, and I don't drink or whatever. However, like they say, red wine, a glass of red wine is good a day. They're actually finding the benefits of it are often canceled out by the sugar. Sugar feeds fibroids. Sugar is terrible if you have an autoimmune disease. And so resveratrol is amazing if you're dealing with fibroids. But resveratrol, if you look into it, and I take the liquid, diluted now with my MSM and vitamin C. It's absolutely disgusting, but it takes a gulp and it's gone. Resveratrol is amazing at shrinking fibroids so that you can just have a better quality of life, but your overall health, and you don't have to drink alcohol and get the negative effects of alcohol in order to get the benefits of red wine. So I found that to be helpful as well. So I pray that, I don't think that's everything. I'm trying to think. I take much more than, I take a couple of slippery elm. I take slippery elm. This may not help everyone. I'm a singer, so I was already familiar with slippery elm. Before I got diagnosed, I was taking slippery elm because I didn't know what was going on with my vocal cords. And I was dealing with a lot of mucus and stuff like that, which is actually pleurisy. And it ended up having chronic laryngitis and having to go on vocal rest, but it was because I later found out that it was, I was having a neuromuscular symptom to the lupus. And but slippery elm actually is an anti-inflammatory. It's really, really great. And if you're dealing with any type of gastrointestinal issue, IBS, anything like that, slippery elm is a natural And it can help like ease the pains, gas, bloating, and there are a great number of benefits. Slippery elm, though, can cause you, obviously, because it helps you excrete things. Excuse me. You want to take it at a time where you're not taking your other vitamins when you're taking it. I do recommend it, though, for sure. But you don't want to interfere with the absorption of other beneficial supplements, okay? Slippery elm is a great one, though, that I love. So, trying to think. I think that's about all. Those things have really, really helped me, though. The vitamin D, K2, and the MSM are non-negotiables for me. Because financially, it's a lot. It's sad because we don't have whole food anymore. That even the food that says, or if your food has to say or tell you that it's organic, I mean, we're in bad shape when you have to, and half of that's a lie, you know. But those are my non-negotiables. If you need to just start, you want to start just feeling better, I would say the vitamin D exceed your recommended dosage, because I guarantee you're not getting enough and you're not going to overdose on it. Vitamin D, K2 as a carrier, absorbic, and MSM and the vitamin C as a absorbic. I would say those are my non-negotiables. Obviously, a multivitamin that has folate, especially if you're dealing with something like lupus, where your skin is affected. You'll thank me later. It'll really grow back those patchy areas. Because I know, like, just because you have long hair doesn't mean you have healthy hair. Doesn't mean it's not thinning in spots sometimes. And, you know, as much as we want to say we don't care about those things, like, one of the things about lupus and MS, it affects people at any age. And one of the ways it affects you is not just what it's doing to you chemically, internally, and how you feel, but when you look in the mirror, you just feel ugly. You don't feel beautiful when your tooth falls out. Like, you know, you don't feel, I don't want to get on here until I could get something temporary, until I am able to get an implant. You know, it's a serious thing, though. But it does matter. It matters a lot how you feel, because that dictates how you show up. And lupus is not going to kill you. MS is not going to kill you. And you can absolutely have a great quality of life, or a great quality of life in the midst of sometimes chronic pain. And I want you to be here. God wants you to be here for your children. My daughter knows. She's seen me. She sat in the chemo lab with me, with everybody else with their headphones on. There were people in there getting chemo like they were like at Sonic, you know, like they were so used to it. And I was just so grateful. It's funny, like I was just grateful that it wasn't worse for me, you know. But she has watched me and been with me. She's so young. But my biggest thing is just being able, she's in an exciting time in her life and her career, you know, saving to try to get a car and stuff like that. And I want to show up for her, and it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I'm 21. She's 21. She still calls me mommy. She walks in this morning, and I'm in the dark, and I'm in tears. And she's like, "Good morning, mommy," you know. And I suck it up or whatever. And a lot of times it is sucking it up, you know. And I mean this for men and women, because this affects men and women. It's just how you manage it may be different because of how you're genetically wired, you know, made up. But it doesn't have to completely take you out, you know, and it won't. So I pray that this caught you up to where I am. This is much longer than I wanted it to be. I'm exhausted, but I'm grateful that my phone didn't cut out on me, and I pray that it uploads just fine. But I'm going to get some rest. Continue to pray for me, as I am always praying for you. I am going to go into fasting and prayer. please don't think that I'm just neglecting the channel. This has been intense with, you know, several emergencies in between. I go back to the doctor. I'm really debating on what type of treatment because it has become pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And when I say pretty bad, it's less about the pain and it's more about, you know, you don't want to be walking or driving and you can't feel your foot. It's happened to me. Foot's on a pedal and I can't feel it. Dropping things, falling. I know it's weird, but I don't care if you're 19 with it or 99 with it, you understand exactly what I'm saying. People look at you and they don't think that it's imaginable. The enemy has even tried to show me something one time, and it happened to me in church where I saw this, and I was like, is that you, Lord? Like, I had a vision, an open vision in church, and I didn't know where this came from. And dreams and visions are different in that, you know, what is a vision? Sometimes people think imaginations are visions, and they're not. And the enemy gave me an imagination. This is why you cast them down immediately. And this was years ago. I had a cane. It's crazy to think, like, me, who is like hyper and athletic and goofy and all of the things, pageant girl, like, would, you know what, but it scared me. It scared me. And we don't allow these things to penetrate our psyche. We don't absorb them. We don't meditate on them. But yeah, I know what it's like when you're faced with something so very real, and you can be scared sometimes. Scary things happen. So I know that it's real for you. And I want you to know that it's not me just not being here. You know, I'm just trying to do what I must do. And, you know, YouTube is not my job, but I have a family to support. It's been a lot. But I hope to see you very soon and teach the class, because it's of the utmost importance. God never said I wouldn't teach the class. I think right now I just have to be able to get my head on straight and, like, be able to work through the pain a few days in a row. And prayerfully, it's just, I come out of this flare and I get some good news and it's some good test results and things like that. Prayerfully, everything is good. But I just wanted to update you guys and give some wisdom where I can, and some encouragement. But I love you. Happy fall. It's my favorite season. My favorite season. I just love the cooler weather. It's still 105 degrees here. So, like, literally. So that's another thing. As hard as it can be to be active when you have MS and lupus, do your very, very best. That's one of the things that has made things worse for me, because I like to be outside in the evenings, but it's still 90. Literally last night, it was 90 degrees at 9 o'clock still. And that's just no good. And so the heat has not been great. But I love fall because it's usually cooler. Is why I can't wait to get away from California. Pray for me. I'm trying to move the ASAP. I just can't take it here. But I'm like, Lord, please make it time. But he still has me here. So, but try to walk in place. Find a YouTube video and walk in place. I do it. Do something, get an exercise bike, just be a little active, get those joints moving just a little bit, because I've gotten up in the middle of the night, locked up, screaming and crying, and literally, she's had to help me unlock and stretch out, because my body just completely, the muscles just contract, you know. And so I'm here with you if you have any one of these things, or if you have overlap. like I've been diagnosed with. And I know that every flare-up is like a new diagnosis process sometimes, because the new symptoms, they start treating it like you, like they don't know what's going on with you. And it's just a lot for you to process and deal with. It's time consuming. You want to get on with your life. But I just want you to know that I love you and I'm here with you and I'm praying for you. God bless you. Father God, in the name of Jesus Christ, I just bless you and I thank you for this time. I ask right now that you just touch each and every one of your children that's listening. That you just pour out your love onto them. That whatever it is that they are facing, whether it's physical ailments, diagnoses, or marital issues, or raising kid issues, or whatever it is they're facing, Lord God, even if it's depression, hopelessness, or that you will penetrate those dark areas with your marvelous light, and that they will begin to absorb the wisdom that only you can give, and give them the motivation that they need to take charge of the things that they can control. I love you because you are a healer. And I just love you because you are a keeper. And I thank you that you're doing that now. And we're ever so grateful for these things that sometimes we take for granted, Lord God, and just maybe be aware, more self-aware of how we show up for ourselves, to you, and for the people around us, especially those that may be dealing with these things. May we be better friends and sisters and brothers and moms and dads and children to those who may be dealing with these things that we may not understand, Lord God. I pray, Lord God, that this is a blessing to your children. And we just thank you for all that you have done and all that you will do. And we thank you ultimately, really, that you just hear us. In Jesus' name, amen. So I love you, and I will see you soon.